Welcome to This Week in Health IT News, where we take a look at the news which will impact health IT. This is another field report where we talk with leaders from health systems and organizations on the front lines. My name is Bill Russell, healthcare CIO coach and creator of This Week in Health IT, a set of podcasts, videos, and collaboration events dedicated to developing the next generation of health leaders. Are you ready for this? We're going to do something a little different for our Tuesday Newsday show next week. We're going to go live at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. We will be live on our YouTube channel with myself, Drexta Ford, Sue Shade, and David Muntz with Starbridge Advisors to discuss the new normal for health IT. With you supplying the questions with live chat. Also, you can send in your questions ahead of time at hello@thisweekinhealthit.com. I'm so excited to do this, and I hope you will join us. Mark your calendar, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on April 28th. If you want to send the questions, feel free to do that. And you can get to the show by going to thisweekhealth.com/live. This episode and every episode since we started the COVID-19 series has been sponsored by Sirius Healthcare. They reached out to me to see how we might partner during this time, and that is how we've been able to support producing daily shows. Special thanks to Sirius for supporting the show's efforts during the crisis. Now, on to today's show. Today's conversation is a returning guest, Kristin Myers, SVP at Mount Sinai in New York City. How you doing, Kristin?
Very well. How are you, Bill?
Good. Did I mess up any of the intro there?
No.
Okay. No. I'm getting. Kristin Myers is a pretty straightforward name, but you never know anymore. I get stuck on these things. Thanks for taking a few minutes. I know you guys are really busy. So let's just jump right into it. Give us a little context. Today's April 22nd, and what's going on in New York City? What are you seeing? How are things going?
Yeah, I think it's been a very challenging time in New York City. As of this morning, there was around 139,000 COVID cases just in the city, 14,000 deaths. And, Mount Sinai has actually discharged around 3,000 COVID patients, and we have about 1,500 patients still in the ICU. So, while things are getting better, we're not out of the woods by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, these are really extraordinary times, especially in New York City. We talked with Jamie from Hospital for Special Surgery, and she was just describing the environment and things that are going on. So it's This Week in Health IT, so we're going to focus in on that aspect of it. What's one thing that you've discovered over the past couple of weeks, that might benefit others, or people might be surprised to hear that's going on? We're now preparing for a second surge as we start to come out of this, and I think some of the learnings we have from New York City are going to really benefit other areas.
Yeah, I think the first one is around structure and communication. We have an emergency command center at the health system level, and that meets formally once a day, but there are multiple meetings a day. And then IT has its own command center that meets twice a day. And I think that what's important is really to be able to communicate to all of the teams and ensure that you have that structure in place. I think that's one of the critical learnings. I think secondly, from a technology perspective, clearly telehealth, we scaled up from 40 visits a day to 4,400 visits a day, which is significant. The remote learning, we went from, 1,000 people doing remote working to 10,000 people doing remote working every single day. And then, the creativity that comes into play when, you're really forced to find solutions very quickly. And at Mount Sinai Morningside, we had a situation where we were converting non-ICU areas into ICU areas that had no windows and no glass. And so we were able to use tablets and cameras and, to be able to see what is going on with the patient, what's going on with the vitals and vents, etc., which is really important. And, we're protecting our frontline providers by being able to come up with these creative solutions.
Wow, did you say 40 to 4,000 a day in telehealth?
Yes,
Wow.
significant.
So I assume your infrastructure was able to handle that. How did you bring so many physicians up to speed so quickly on that?
Yeah, so what we did was we set up a special telehealth command center. And, we were able to work with the physicians and, get them up and running very, very quickly. But we had the underlying infrastructure in place, which I think was extremely helpful.
So the workflow was there. Physicians the workflow was there. The technology was there. The physicians just had to come up to speed on this kind of stuff, right? Front facing light, how to communicate, how to document, how to what things they could do over telehealth, what things they couldn't do over telehealth. I assume that's the training that had to go on.
Absolutely. And then, we had the command center as backup. So if they had any questions, concerns, etc., we could just, have a Zoom call with them or, walk them through on the telephone, whatever they felt comfortable with. So we had that facility for them.
I'm going to get to the other questions, but I'm curious your thoughts. Do you think once the New York population experiences this and once the clinicians experience this, it'll go back from 4,000 to 40, or do you think where do you think it'll fall once we're past this? Those numbers. Do you think they'll level out?
I can't imagine it's going to go back, to 40. I think that the physicians, feel very comfortable with the technology, and we've got a lot of positive feedback from them. I think that initially there was probably, some reluctance because they were used to seeing patients face to face. But now they've used it, I think they definitely feel more comfortable. From the patient perspective, I think that, from a safety perspective, they probably feel, better being able to communicate than not to communicate with their physician right now. So I think that, telehealth's here to stay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Although my mom has told me, because she has experienced her first telehealth visit, she said, there are times I still want to see my doctor, and I think we'll see that coming out of this. What specific solutions have you put in place that you talked about the one? What other solutions have you put in place that either that were necessitated by this, or that were necessitated by creativity that was just required?
Yeah, I definitely think that the Google Nest cameras and the iPads was a great example of that at Mount Sinai Morningside and other facilities. I also think expanding telehealth into the inpatient facilities so that you could have consults with cardiologists and other specialists, without them having to go into the room or actually be at that specific facility has been great. And an extension of what we were doing already with telehealth.
I was talking to another CIO about that, and they were talking about that they think that the camera is going to be a fixed piece of equipment in all rooms going forward. Is that? Do you think we'll see that?
Yeah, I think that's probably where we will ultimately move to. Yes.
Yeah, because it provides us a lot of flexibility. What's one thing that your team has been able to do that you're really the most impressed with at this point?
I think that the teams have been so committed to the work to support the front line. I think that what I've seen is just the giant lift, quite frankly, of work that would take weeks to do potentially, that gets done overnight or in a few days. I think that when there's a crisis in any health system, the boundaries blur, and work that takes such a long time just gets done because people look at the hurdles and say, no, we can do it. And I think that can-do attitude to really achieve results and turn it around quickly. I mean, it's been amazing. And, really want to thank not only, all the frontline providers at Mount Sinai, but also, to all the support teams, like technology teams, who've just done a tremendous job.
Yeah, and I think having been to New York, having friends in New York, and I've been to their apartments, and they give me the tour, and it's just kind of funny because they'll say, this is our basement, and it'll be like a closet. Now, and it's friends of ours who have moved from places that were in the suburbs and whatnot, and I don't think people recognize how big of a challenge it is. I mean, the apartments are not the living arrangements are not all that big. You're home with your kids. The work environment changed so dramatically, and then they were being asked to do so much over and above that. There's an awful lot of just flexibility and just professionalism to get that much work done.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the key takeaways is you have to really be an empathetic leader, because not only are your team members really focused on trying to get this work done, working very long hours, working 7 days a week, they have their own challenges in their own personal lives and their own anxieties. And then on top of that, anxiety that on an individual basis is so important. Having those touch bases, having the town halls, having the regular meetings also, and just asking really, how are you? How are your children? And really empathizing and understanding where they're at.
Yeah, it is amazing. So you guys are technically, so you had the original surge April 22nd. So you're starting to see starting to see it come back or come down a little bit. But the reality is New Yorkers still live on top of each other. I mean, no places like this. I mean, to get to your house, you're going in an elevator. To go to work, you're going in public transportation. Is there any talk about what this looks like after the surge is gone? Or are we still too close to the surge to be talking about those things?
No, I think that, we're starting to look at preparations for how do we reopen areas of ambulatory care, and, what is it going to take even for some of the team members to go back to work. But it's going to be a long, and it needs to be, done in coordination with, the city and the state and with federal guidance. But, it's going to take a while. I think that it's not going to be a short process here in New York City at all.
No, and I really appreciate what you guys are doing. You did break up a little bit there from time to time, and I hope we captured enough of it. If we didn't, I might reach back out to you for some more.
No worries.
A little later. So, Kristin, thanks again for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Bill.
That's all for this week. Special thanks to our sponsors, VMware, Starbridge Advisors, Galen Healthcare, Health Lyrics, Sirius Healthcare, and ProTalent Advisors for choosing to invest in developing the next generation of health leaders. If you want to support the fastest growing podcast in the health IT space, the best way to do that is to share it with a peer. Send them an email, DM them, whatever you do, however you do it. Go ahead and do that, and that would benefit us greatly. We appreciate your support. Please check back often, as we will continue to drop shows until we get through this pandemic together. Thanks for listening. That's all for now.